Well, since the beginning of time, people have been predicting its end. And now it seems the doomsayers have a date to work towards. A simple glitch is threatening a new age of chaos the second the world's computers click over to the year 2000.
At the third stroke.
Everywhere from your video recorder to your bank account, there are computers that run on time. Most read the year the same way, just the last two digits, which is fine until the year 2000, when 00 just won't compute.
It's traffic lights, it's cars, it's pension funds, insurers, emergency services, fire, police, ambulance, hospitals, power, water, telecommunication. We would be like a planet full of blind people.
23 years ago, people were living normal lives, just like we do today. Christmas 1999 was a jolly time for most, and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa in 1999 were happily celebrated as well. As New Year's Day came closer, the threat of Y2K became more and more scary. The Y2K bug was a theorized computer failure. Many feared that since computer programs use a two-digit code for the year date, that when the clock struck midnight on December 31st, 1999, also known as 12/31/99, computers will read the new date as 11-1900 instead of 11-2000. This theory made many computer programmers worried that an incorrect date would lead to money being lost at banks, radiation levels being set off at power plants, phone lines not working, and airplanes not being able to fly, and many crashes happening on New Year's Eve. Some even worried that missiles would be launched, communication would be lost with all astronauts in space, medical devices would stop working, or that you wouldn't be able to hop on Madden anymore with your buddies. People feared the worst. Due to the Y2K panic that was happening around the world, many world leaders took this threat very seriously and spent an estimated $600 billion to prepare and prevent issues that could happen. Many countries even set up command centers and task forces to help Y2K not be a legitimate fear. China even declared war on the Y2K glitches and were going to hold anyone criminally responsible if they allowed any mistakes to happen on January 1st. In the public eye, many governments founded Y2K prep hotlines, and the UN helped distribute money to developing countries during preparation times. News stations around the US specifically, and specials like the PAX Network's How to Prepare Your Family for Y2K or Y2K Are You Ready made the panic worse back in the day. But again, some people truly thought the world was going to end, so to them it was important to prepare. Especially when your advice is coming from Y2K Survival Guide hosted by Leonard Nimoy. If you lived during this time, you may be saying to yourself, if actual governments and computer scientists were actually convinced this was going to happen, then why weren't regular everyday people concerned it was going to happen as well? Well, that's because a lot of the government stuff was happening behind closed doors. And this is just an example of the important headlines about Y2K in the news.
Are you filling up your car because of Y2K?
Not at all, not worried.
Why are you filling up your car?
Out of gas.
New Year's Eve was the day everyone was waiting for. All day long, government officials around the world were in command centers monitoring the situation and making sure there would be celebration that night instead of disaster. On that day, things like water bottles, toilet paper, and foods that don't need a microwave or oven were impossible to find at many stores. Gas was another item that was very hard to find as the new year got closer. And companies like Disney started preparing for the worst. Disneyland sent out reference guides to their cast members. This guide laid out everything in case of a Y2K related emergency. This guide explains what to do if the park closes early. It states that the manager of that position will notify the cast members if the park is closing. Guests would then be instructed to evacuate the park, and a map was included in the guide to show the exits. The closing spiel scripts were included in the guide. Guest services are also included with a question and answer section with instructions on what to do if parties got separated during the evacuation. The last page of the guide includes backstage instructions for the cast members on how to make their way backstage to return costumes and which locations to make sure no guests are still in. The guide is extremely interesting, but since it is technically Disney property still, I don't want to link a copy in the description. But feel free to pause the video at any time the guide's pages are on screen. It was announced on December 30th that a few rides and elevators were closed from 11:45 p.m. to 12:15 a.m. The list of rides included Peter Pan's Flight and Haunted Mansion, since those rides are hard to evacuate. The elevators at Rocket Rods and Innoventions at Disneyland would close. Disney would also install backup generators in Disneyland and at all 4 parks in Disney World. They also placed emergency lights all around Disney World property. And cast members were even trained on how to manually process credit cards for bills that were due. On New Year's Eve, flashlights were put in all resort rooms in case of a power outage. Epcot and Magic Kingdom are always the most popular parks on New Year's Eve, especially this year since the Millennium Celebration would begin. Epcot was the first park to hit capacity at 7:49 in the morning. Magic Kingdom hit capacity at 12:40 p.m. Both of these parks only let resort guests, annual pass holders, and multi-day ticket holders in after those times. Epcot was actually closed to pass holders as well later in the day. The line at the International Gateway was so long it went all the way back to the boat dock at the Yacht Club. Ride lines were hours long for the entire day, but to alleviate some of the crowds, Disney sent a letter out to guests explaining their policy on how to get back into the park, even if it's at full capacity. If resort guests went back to their resort rooms, they were allowed back into the park they came from since they were part of the crowd when that park had its capacity. Disney stated this policy and suggested guests go back to their resort rooms before the evening. According to multiple reports, this would lead to a decrease in attendance after the letter was sent. During the afternoon in Epcot, the Tapestry of Nations parade ran at 3:30 and 5:15. Tapestry of Nations was new at the time, having only been open since October 1999. It was a parade that went around the World Showcase and featured floats and puppets designed by Michael Curry, the same man who designed the Lion King puppets on Broadway. After Tapestry of Nations performance were over, crowds started to gather around the World Showcase Lagoon in preparation for midnight. Over in Magic Kingdom, the celebration began with 2 performances of the Main Street Electrical Parade. The Electrical Parade had just begun its second run earlier in May 1999. The regular version of the fireworks show Fantasy in the Sky would also begin at 8:30 p.m. Guests could also catch DJs at all the lands around Magic Kingdom, and MGM Studios also had DJs around the park playing music from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and the 70s. There were also concerts around Disney World, like an MGM pop band LFO performed, and Youngstown also performed. Rock band Cheap Trick performed near the streets of America.
Rolling numbers, rockin', rolling, got my Kiss records high. Mama's alright, Daddy's alright, you just seem a little bit. Surrender, surrender, but don't give yourself away.
Over in Pleasure Island, they held a New Year's Eve party with Hootie and the Blowfish, the B-52s, and Styx. It was a different story at Disneyland. Record crowds were expected, but it actually rained that. Yes, in California it rained. When it rains in California, it's like the apocalypse is happening. Maybe, actually I just realized this, maybe this was a sign for what could happen at midnight. But according to multiple sources, crowds were light and the rain was on and off throughout the day and the night. The New Year's Eve party wouldn't begin until after the 6:30 parade. The main site was the hub near the castle. Colors and countdowns were projected onto the Matterhorn Mountain. Patterns and colors were projected onto the castle as well, and was synced to the music that was being played by the DJ over the speakers. It was almost time. At the Y2K command center around the world, no one was celebrating yet. A few countries like Italy and Russia were concerned since they may not have prepared as well as others. But time was ticking. On the East Coast, the New Year was nearly here. Epcot started its fireworks show about 3 minutes before midnight. Today, Disney is known for magnificent fireworks shows, and this New Year's show is the reason that's true. The song Celebrate the Future Hand in Hand played with an unbelievable fireworks display. 13,000 fireworks shells were set off around Disney World that night. Take a look at the finale before the countdown.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the moment has arrived.
Magic Kingdom also had an impressive fireworks show.
Oh boy, that was swell! Say, Minnie, what time is it?
Oh my goodness! Mickey, it's almost time!
You'll have plenty of time! Oh, no we don't! Goofy, this is it! Start the countdown clock!
The moment of truth was here. Either celebration or disaster will occur in seconds. Not only the people in Disney World, but the people in the entire world waited to see what would happen. The countdown had begun.
2 minutes!
The clock struck midnight on the East Coast, and nothing happened. Bank statements were still correct, phone lines worked, everything was okay. Some glitches did occur, but they were so minor that US Y2K chief John Constantine said, "We were literally unable to find any significant Y2K related incident. The small glitches were some misprinted dates on receipts, but that was fixed quickly." Celebration was on at Disney World. Epcot's unbelievable fireworks display didn't miss a beat and continued with an even more impressive display after the countdown. After Mickey counted down at Magic Kingdom, the fireworks display continued there too. And at Disneyland, the hub was packed and ready for the new year. And since Y2K basically hadn't happened anywhere in the world, there was no fear anymore. A minute before midnight, Mickey appeared on the castle. And during that countdown, he shot a firework to the top of the Matterhorn. Another firework was triggered on the peak, and 1999 was no more. 2000 was officially here. The spectacular fireworks show then began. After the show, a bright 2000 sign shined on top of the Matterhorn. With Y2K officially being prevented, America was free to celebrate and party all night long. Most of the Disney parks were open until 2 a.m. on New Year's Eve. First-hand accounts remember trying to get out of the park as chaotic as Y2K was feared to be. It took hours to clear the parks of all the guests. More than one time the crowds were shoulder to shoulder trying to get to the exits, but not even moving because of the sea of people. Some guests even remember not being able to get back to their home or resorts until 5 in the morning. But that's a small price to pay for the historic night that they just witnessed. Speaking of New Year's, Happy New Year everybody. Happy 2023. I hope you had a good New Year's Eve. I always have a party on New Year's Eve at my house. It's always a lot of fun. So New Year's Eve is party time for me. So it's always fun for me. I hope it was fun for you as well. I've got a lot of good things planned for the New Year's, and including this video. This video was a big one. It took a lot of time to make this video. So if you want to show support for all those hours that I've spent on this video, please go down and leave a like and consider subscribing. It would make me a very happy man. Also, while you're down there, leave a comment if you remember Y2K, or if you were in the Disney parks on New Year's Eve 1999, and what are your recollections. Anyway, with that, I will see you on the next one. Have a magical day, everybody.